What is going on, Nuggets Nation NBA fans? My name is Tom Leuthner. Welcome back to another episode of Nuggets Today, presented by Fan Arch. As you guys could see, nothing behind me anymore. I'm currently moving to a new apartment, so the set will be a little bland until I move in because, like I said, just about everything, at least to this point, is out. Should be a new setup within the next couple weeks. May take me a little while to get everything set up, but I want to hop into some Nuggets, topics for you guys today. And the first person I want to talk about is Julian Strawther. I did get to finish going back, watching the media day, watching some of the post-practice conferences. And the first thing I want to talk about, first player I want to talk about is Julian Strawther, who in my opinion could be the most improved player for Denver this year. Obviously, there's a lot of young talent, and it really comes down to what guys get opportunities to be that. And I just think that Strawther is that guy. First thing I want to start with the media day is I didn't realize that his voice was that deep. I don't know why. I feel like I've heard him talk, and I just never expected him to have that deep of a voice. I know it sounds so weird, but I sort of just, it was him and Val next to each other, and I was just like, oh, that's funny. He doesn't look like a guy who's going to have a super deep voice. And then Duran is a guy who has a super high-pitched voice, which I just think is a very funny thing because of their body types, I guess. But Julian Strawther, in my opinion, is going to be the most improved player if he does get his fair share of playing time, which I know is going to be a little tough just because there's so much depth. And they were sort of asking him about it, and they were asking him how he feels about the coaching staff. And the one thing about the coaching staff is he said that, those were guys that he watched growing up, and he's never gotten to be around their mindset. So to be able to pick their brains and learn from them is just a huge, it's a huge factor in his game and, the role that he'll play in this Denver organization this year. He was told that there's going to be a lot of challenge just because there is limited playing time, and obviously guys like Tim are going to come and eat into his minutes. Obviously you might see some more of CB on the bench, Cam on the bench, and that, like I said, eats into his playing time. And the second unit looks like it has him in it right now, but we shall see what that second unit does bring. He said that he was excited to have the veterans on the team, and he seems very open-minded about the entire roster. He doesn't seem very petty about anything. He's not like upset that Denver brought in any of these vets because it'll eat into his playing time and it may cause him to, not play as much. But he seemed excited to have everybody. He has a good mindset going into this season. And he was asked about his availability because that's something I covered with Cam last episode. And he said, I want to be available all 82 games this year. He wants to play in every single game. And I think that's really one of the biggest factors for Denver just because he missed time last year. And him missing time led to a decreased role when it came to his playoff usage. A guy that Denver could have used. But it was sort of, as soon as he came back from his injury and he was ready to go, there was a new coaching staff, there was new management going into a playoff series. And I know that DA was obviously working with him beforehand and he knew about him. He knew his game, but to not have full trust in him because DA wasn't able to see much of him. So I think that him being available is really one of the biggest things for Denver just because I think he can be a guy on this bench that really can provide a lot of scoring and a lot of shot creation. I think that he's one of the guys on the bench that can create his own shots. But if he doesn't have to, obviously they can play through the big like they, all the reports are that they're playing through their backup big like they play through Jokic in the starting five, and that is obviously Jonas Valanciunas, who I just said was sitting next to him at his media day conference presser. Which I think was an interesting combo. A young guy and a vet sitting next to each other talking at the same time. I sort of felt bad for Julian because a lot of the questions were directed at Jonas, and obviously Jonas had some answers. And the first thing I want to talk about is them bringing up his age. They brought up how old he is, or he brought up how old he is, and they said, what's the goal and how do you feel? And he just said, at my age, you have to win a championship. That's what you play for. You play to get a championship because there's not much time left. And I love that answer. I think that maybe he's not the happiest with Denver. And, he said that he's happy. He said that if I wasn't happy, I wouldn't be here, which was another quote that I sort of liked. But at the same time, I think that this is, not even that I think it, he also said that this is, I've always wanted to win a championship, and this is a place where I can get it done. And I think that that's true. I think that he is going into the season with the mindset that, I can win a championship with this team, and this team is good enough to win a championship. And I think that's what you need, a vet coming in who can actually be an impactful piece off the bench and saying that, we have a great opportunity to do this. We have a great opportunity to win this championship. And, I could bring something to the table that will help this team get there. And I've always looked for a spot that can get me to the championship, and this is the team. So it's nice to hear, And like I said, he said he was asked about the offseason rumors, and he said the one thing's to clarify: I'm here and I'm happy to be here. Everything behind us is history. Put the past behind us and focus what's in front of us. And like I said, I think it's a great quote, and it proves that he does want to be here, even if it is just a verbal agreement by the team to go ahead and say that, just so everybody thinks that he really does want to be here. And the last thing I want to bring up with Jonas is that they asked him what his most developed skill is and what he'll bring to this team. And he said, I'm going to bring whatever the coaches need me to bring. I don't really know the game plan yet. I haven't been here for too long. He said, but toughness is my most developed skill. And, and he brings toughness to the table. And he said, if that's what Denver wants to play, that's what I'll do. And I was thinking about it, and Denver has the opportunity to play a gritty lineup in Val, CB, Peyton Watson, even Jamal, I guess, could play that AG. If you want to run a lineup that's going to get in people's heads and be able to play defense, and I even think that Strother and Pickett are pesky defenders. Bruce obviously could be in there. So they have the opportunity to do something that they haven't done, and that's run a full defensive lineup that can score and is pesky, especially with Jonas Mann in the middle for that lineup. Now, the next thing I want to hop into is high praise, a lot of praise going around for this player, and that player is somebody that I brought up recently, and that is Jamal Murray. And I think that there's so much praise around Jamal. I believe Pickett brought it up, and Pickett was saying that Jamal got us all into the gym this offseason, and he wants everybody to be close. And I know that David Adelman brought it up and said, I said the other an episode or two ago that when teams get clicky, that's when things start to not mesh. And Jamal is the guy that doesn't want things to be clicky. He wants to win another championship. He continuously gets asked about it, and he just keeps saying this is the unit that can get it done. So he seems excited about this unit, this Denver team, this Denver organization. And they asked him about why he wants everybody to play together and something along those lines. And he just says, he says that there's a lot of depth on the team, and he wants to continue to work with everybody. And like I said, DA was big on having everybody be one unit and not just a singular click, because like you said, that's when things go downhill. And like I said, I think that this is the best opportunity that Denver's had, and that's something I'll get into next episode as well. But this last topic I want to cover is actually a team I feel like I've been covering way too much. But as a Nuggets fan and a podcast that covers the Nuggets, I obviously have to bring up some Western Conference news. And the news right now in the Western Conference is more moves actually for the Warriors. That is that they officially brought in Seth Curry verbally. And I believe he signed the 1-year contract. Kuminga came back on a 2-year deal, which is pretty big for them because that means that they are not moving him. But because they're not moving him, that means that Seth Curry has to be released, and he'll be re-signed in November due to tax restrictions. So they're going to end up having Al, Melton, Seth Curry, Kuminga back. And I think that their team's actually pretty good. I think that they're going to land in the 7 to 9 spot in the Western Conference. And with the playoff and the veteran leadership that they have, the playoff experience, veteran leadership that they have, I think that they're going to be a little bit of a force to play against in the Western Conference. But that is all I got for you guys today, Nuggets Nation. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.